So with the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, I decided to have a closer look at my Kings and Queens cards. This shows you all the Kings and Queens, right from 871 right up to 1952, when our present Queen, our just late Queen, came to the throne. So we've got all the English kings, the Saxon and Viking, Norman, Plantagenet, I think that's how you pronounce it, please excuse my pronunciation, Lancaster, York, Tudor, then the Scottish kings, on the other side they got some more Scottish kings, and then you've got Balliol, and Bruce, and Stuart, and another spelling of Stuart, and then Hanover, and then Windsor. Not all the kings and queens are on the cards because some of them only reigned for 1 year or less than a year, so they've been just brushed over. But first we've got the first English kings, and we've got a few. Ethelbert of Kent, Offa of Mercia, Egbert of Wessex. Now, did you know that Mercia is around where I live, and that used to be a kind of where the king would be based. Wouldn't call it the capital of England, so well, maybe, but it was where they kind of had their base, I don't know. Anyway, next we've got Alfred the Great, the only monarch to be known as the Great. And then you've got Edward to Edgar, Edward the Elder, Athelstan, Edmund I, Edred, Edwy, and Edgar the Peaceful. And then we've got Edward to Edmund, Edward the Martyr, Ethelred, known as the Unready, and Edmund II. Next we've got Canute, first Viking king of England, and we've got from Harold and Arthur Canute, Harold I and Arthur Canute, son of Canute, Arthur Canute, son of Canute. And then we've got Edward and Harold, Edward 1042 to 1066, and Harold 1066. Oh, Harold II 1066. Then we have William the First, William the Second, and the Bayeux Tapestry. Don't know who drew these pictures. That looks like Bayeux Tapestry there, doesn't it? Yes, that's definitely Bayeux Tapestry. Okay. Henry the First, Stephen, the only king called Stephen. I don't know any Stephen II, do you? Stephen. Henry II. Richard II. Oh, that's Richard I, sorry. Richard I. Don't worry about me. Richard I. And then we have John, the only king called John. Next we have Henry III. Edward the First. Edward the Second. It looks a bit red in the face, doesn't he? And we've got Edward the Third. Richard the Second. Henry the Fourth. Henry the Fifth. Henry the Sixth. Edward the Fourth. Richard the Third. Henry the Seventh. Now, Henry the Eighth. We all know about him, don't we? Edward the Sixth. We didn't have one for Edward the Fifth because he only reigned for a year or less than a year. He was younger. And we've got Mary the First. Elizabeth the First. I drew a picture of her in my school exercise book once, just like you see on the pictures. And the teacher said, "Oh, she looks a bit skinny, doesn't she?" I said, "Well, that's how she's always portrayed, so I did a good job." Anyway, Kings of the Scots. Now we've got a few Kings of Scots on here. About Kenneth I MacAlpin, Constantine II, Malcolm II. That's just a few of them. More Kings of the Scots. And we've got Macbeth, who was made famous by Shakespeare, David I, and John de Balliol. So the real Macbeth was nice. The fictional Macbeth by Shakespeare was not like the real Macbeth. Okay. And we've got Robert the First. And we've got the early Stuarts. We've got a few Stuarts on here. A few Stuarts. Let's have a look who we've got. James I, James II, James IV. They didn't bother with James III. So there's important kings there. And then we've got Mary, Queen of Scots. And we've got James. James was the James the Sixth of Scotland and James the First of England. That's right, isn't it? Yeah. James the Sixth of Scotland and James the First of England. That's right. James the Sixth of Scotland and James the First of England. Yeah. And we've got Charles the First. Charles the Second. James the Second. With his funny wig. William the Third and Mary the Second. William and Mary there. And we got Queen Anne, the only Queen Anne. And then we've got George the First I'm amazed there wasn't a George before him. Had plenty of kings, why not a George before him? Anyway, that's just the first. And then straight after him, we've got George the Second. So 2 Georges come along at once. George the Second. Then we've got George the Third. Blimey. You wait for 1 George and then 3 come along at once. George the Third. Looks like Napoleon. Then we've got George the Sixth. Not George the Sixth, George the Fourth. So you wait for 1 George and then 4 come along at once. George the Fourth. And then William the Fourth. William the Fourth. And Victoria. Queen Victoria. And then we have Edward the Seventh with his top hat. George the Fifth. And then we have Edward the Eighth. He went off and married Mrs. Simpson. And then we have George the Sixth. And then, of course, our most recent Queen, Queen Elizabeth II. There she is. And of course, now we have King Charles III. So there we have our cards of Kings and Queens of England and Scotland. So that's the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!